we're kind of going for the theme of self-love, which works because it's February, and February is often associated with love. And initially, when Christy shared with us that we were going to be working on self-love, I was like indignant and I like rolled my eyes. And then I was like, I should probably unpack that reaction and figure out what work needs to be done here, because clearly there's some work to be done. And so for this month, we're going to focus on self-love. That's different for everybody. That probably changes every day or every week for everybody. And I understand that it can be a very complicated or heavy idea or topic. And so I just want to keep it really simple. And let's focus on celebrating what we can do in this moment, in this time, this practice on our mat. Not what we could do last week, month, year, not what we hope to do in the future, but right now. And one thing that I have found really helpful over the past several years is affirmations. You've probably heard of affirmations. They're kind of like mantras. It's kind of like you're cheering for yourself, and it's a statement that you can say to yourself. And so we're actually going to add mantra into our practice today. Of course, if it's not something that resonates with you, throw it aside. You don't need to do it. If it is something that resonates with you, it's not necessarily your job to convince yourself that these affirmations are true. It's really your job to be the observer and observe how these affirmations make you feel and what your reaction to them is. So kind of like going back to when Christy said, oh, we're focusing on self-love, and I was like, oh, so indignant and scoffing and rolling my eyes like an 11-year-old. So kind of just something to think about. We will focus on heart opening because love and heart opening go hand in hand. So we're going to get started today in, you guys probably guessed it because I love this pose, supported reclining fish pose. Please bring your blocks to the back of your mat. We'll make them into the shape of a T, and there's going to be space, a couple of inches in between the two blocks. So top block is parallel to the short edge of the mat. Bottom block is parallel to the long edge of the mat so that they're perpendicular. And then we will go ahead and add our bolster. If you have a large bolster, that probably works better than my small little guy here. You can also add blankets. You can lower this. If having a block today is not going to feel good on your back, you can just use a blanket or bolster as well. So just a couple things to think about, and the most important thing is that your head is fully supported, and the second block is going to be somewhere in between your shoulder blades. And we're going to go ahead and lower ourselves onto our blocks. Let your arms rest away from your side, almost like an upside down V. Palms can be face up for being receptive, open to the practice that is to come. The feet about hip-width distance apart. You can extend your legs to the bottom of the mat. If you'd like, you can draw the soles of the feet together and take your knees out wide. Another option, especially if you've got some stuff going on in the low back, is you can bring your knees together, feet wide, big toes angle in toward one another, and let your knees rest on one another. And that'll release the back a little bit, less compression. Allow yourself to get comfortable. Allow your body to really sink into whatever props you have underneath you. Allow your legs to sink into the mat. Allow yourself to be held here. Noticing the stability of whatever is holding you. Allowing yourself to feel supported and grounded. Bringing some awareness to the collarbones. Let your collarbones be nice and broad. Soften your shoulders away from your ears. If it feels right and safe for you, you're welcome to close your eyes. Check in, smooth the muscles of your forehead, soften the muscles of your cheeks, your jaw. And start to check in with yourself. Take inventory of where you're starting your practice. You might first start by checking in with your breathing, allowing yourself to observe each cycle of breath, breaking it down into the inhale and the exhale, the cadence, rhythm, and quality of each cycle of breathing. And once you feel like you've settled into your breathing, take a moment, if it suits you, to scan your body. You can start at the tips of your toes, you can start at the crown of your head. Allow yourself to scan, to notice areas of tension, areas where you feel like maybe you're holding on or you're stuck, areas of discomfort or tenderness, areas of strength and vitality. You can't have the good without the bad, and you can't have the bad without the good. It's about acknowledging both and celebrating what is. Take a moment to check in with your heart space. Observe any emotions that you may be sitting with tonight as you start your practice. Key word here is observing, casting judgment aside, putting on your compassion glasses as you observe your feelings and your emotions. Bring awareness up to the very center of your forehead. Take a moment to focus on your thoughts. You might notice each thought as it arises. You might notice the quality of your thoughts or the space in between. And perhaps eventually you start letting those thoughts float away, disappearing into the ether. Take a moment to think about what it is that brings you to your practice, what brings you to your mat. Offer gratitude and respect for whatever that may be. And if you'd like, set an intention for your practice. If nothing comes to mind, I offer the idea, the intention, the sankalpa of celebrating what is, celebrating where we are, what we can do, and what is. We'll take a few more rounds of breath here. On your next inhale, start to reach your arms up over your head. Bring your palms to meet and gently exhale your hands to heart center. One more time. Inhale, circle sweep your arms up over your head. Palms meet. Exhale, hands to heart center. Plant your right hand and your right arm and gently roll onto your side. Pressing yourself up. We'll make our way to our next shape, and we're not going to go far. We're going to come onto hands and knees. You might find that placing a blanket under your knees is really helpful here. And we're basically going to leave the blocks as they are. You can also lower them if you would like. And we're going to leave the bolster on top of the blocks. Coming into tabletop, wrists under the shoulders to start. We'll take our knees out nice and wide, almost mat width distance apart, maybe more, maybe less, depending on how your hips, knees, and ankles are feeling. Please be mindful that you can also put a blanket or small bolster underneath the fronts of the ankles or at the knee creases for added support. And we're going to get close enough to our bolster and our blocks that we can lay on our bolster and blocks. Knees nice and wide, lower onto your bolster and blocks. Arms thread through the space in between the blocks. You can rest your cheek or your ear on your pillow, whatever direction feels most comfortable for you. Do your best to send your sit bones back. Release your shoulders away from your ears. You're welcome to keep your eyes open. You're welcome to close your eyes, whatever feels best for you. Take a moment to notice the length of the spine, to notice your breathing. You might notice the rise and fall of your stomach or your chest here. And I'll share with you our first affirmation, and that is, I am worthy of love and joy. I am worthy of love and joy. You can repeat it to yourself, or you can choose to skip it. Another option is every time you notice your mind starting to wander, repeat the affirmation, I am worthy of love and joy. Allowing the breathing to be natural, whatever that may be for you in this moment. Take about 5 more rounds of breath here. Slow and steady, no need to rush. As you're ready, very slowly return your head back to center, plant your hands, and begin to press yourself up. We'll move the blocks just off to the right or left, as well as the bolster. but one or two of the blocks is going to stay towards the top of the mat. I like to make a line with my blocks that are parallel to the top of the mat, the short edge of the mat. And they can be on the medium or low setting. And we're going to come into melting heart pose or anahatasana. We'll start with the neutral spine. Knees are underneath the hips, and we do our best to keep our knees under our hips throughout this process. And this is going to be a supported heart opener, so we're not putting a ton of pressure on the cervical spine. We'll start by bringing our forearms down to the blocks. You can also use a bolster here as well. And really think about melting your heart in between your arms down toward the earth. Let your forehead rest down either to your bolster or your mat. And please don't be afraid to bring your mat to you by adding props. If you're here and you're just not feeling a lot, you're welcome to remove any props that you have. And you can start to really sink the heart space down, bringing the chin or even the chest down to the mat. Remember that edge is very important in our yin practice, and it's important to honor our edge. So rather than going to the full depth of our shape or our ability, we want to come to a place where we feel like we're doing the work, but we can also be here comfortably for several rounds of breath or even several minutes. And our affirmation for our heart opening pose is, I love and accept myself exactly as I am. I love and accept myself exactly as I am. I love and accept myself exactly as I am. We'll take 5 more rounds of breath here. As you find your next inhale, begin to lift your gaze, gently engage your stomach, press into your hands or your forearms, and return back to tabletop pose. We'll take a moment here to observe. Observe and absorb, I like to say. And for our next shape, we will take dragon, or lizard as it is often called in our active practice. For this one, I do recommend having blocks handy, and we'll start at tabletop pose. I'm going to elevate my hands with my blocks first. You don't have to do that. I'm going to step my right foot up towards the top of my mat. I'm going to turn my toes out slightly. So my right toes turn out slightly, heel in, toes out. And then I'm going to start to press my left knee back. And I might need to tuck my toes, lift my left knee and release it. And then the toes point straight back to the back of the mat. We're going to start to pull the left hip forward so that we're squaring our hips. Hands can be resting on blocks or your mat here. We're going to take an option for winged dragon. You don't have to take this option. It's just an added thing that you can do. Left hand on the block or mat, right hand to the right inner thigh. And we're gently going to press our right leg away from us so that we come to the pinky toe outer edge of the right foot. We're rotating our leg away from us, turning our torso over toward that right knee, opening the chest towards the right side of the room, and maybe the gaze starts to float over the right shoulder behind us. We'll take a couple rounds of breathing here. Pressing the left hip forward gently. A couple of target areas here in this shape. First target area is going to be the front of the left thigh. Second target area is going to be the inner right thigh and hip. There's a lot going on here. We've got a slight back bend as well. Option to stay in winged dragon or turn just your torso back towards the top of your mat. And from here you can stay on your hands or you can lower down onto your forearms. And remember, your blocks have 3 heights. There's the tallest, medium, low, or you can lose your blocks altogether. We're still gently drawing the left hip forward, rotating the right leg away from us on the pinky toe edge of the foot if you choose. You can also plant the sole of your right foot on the mat. Really whatever is most comfortable for you. You'll notice that there's differing sensations here. For dragon pose, our affirmation is a powerful one. It makes sense because this is a powerful pose. Let's take a moment to ground into our breathing before we focus on our affirmation. We'll take some nice full inhales through our nose and open mouth exhales. Let's do 2 more. Inhale. Final one. Inhale. Exhale. Affirmation. I forgive myself and set myself free. I forgive myself and set myself free. We'll take 5 more rounds of breath here. Great job. As you're ready, on your inhale, hands come to your mat or your block. Start to shift your hips back so that your left hip rests over your left knee. You can walk your blocks back toward you. Take a moment to observe. Notice how the left leg, the right hip are feeling. And then if you'd like, as a counter pose, you can start to straighten the right leg, shift the hips back. Extend the spine long and exhale, fold. You can fold forward or you can fold at a diagonal over the right leg, whatever feels right for you. Then we'll go ahead and shift back, walking our blocks back underneath our shoulders, knees back underneath the hips. This time we'll take our second side. Inhale to step the left foot forward. Start to slide the hips forward. Turn your toes out slightly, heel in, and your foot's at the edge of the mat. So you've got a decent amount of space in between your right or your left foot and your right knee. We've got our blocks here. You might need to tuck your toes, lift your right knee, and release it just a bit further back. And spiral your outer right hip forward. Option to stay here, or left hand to the left leg. Spiral your leg away from you, coming onto the pinky toe edge of the left foot. Start to turn your torso toward the left knee, so you're bringing a twist into the upper body. And perhaps your gaze follows over the left shoulder to the room behind you. Good job. Option to stay here or turn just your torso to center. Nice long spine to start and slowly lower. You might stay on your hands. You might lower onto your blocks or your forearms, being mindful that we're softening the right hip forward. Option to continue staying winged on the pinky toe edge of the left foot with the arch lifted, or to plant the sole of the left foot. And take some nice inhale through the nose, big full inhale, and an open mouth exhale. We'll take 2 more here. Final one, inhale. Exhale fully. I forgive myself and I set myself free. I forgive myself and I set myself free. And remember, it's not our job to convince ourselves that we believe this mantra. It's our job to notice what our reaction is to this mantra and how it makes us feel. We'll take 5 more rounds of breathing here. As you're ready, on your inhale, plant your hands. Start to shift your right hip back over your right knee. Take a moment to observe. You might notice sensations of the body, shifts in energy. Then if you'd like, for a counter pose, you can shift the hips back slightly. Flex the left foot and begin to straighten the left leg. You don't have to have your left leg completely straight. I'm a big proponent of keeping a slight bend at the knee. Find a nice full inhale, long spine, and exhale. Either fold straight forward or add a diagonal over your left leg. As you're ready, hands on your blocks or your mat, left knee underneath the left hip. Go ahead and move your blocks out of the way. You can leave your blanket on your mat if you'd like. You can roll it up because we'll be doing some seated forward folds. So sometimes it's nice to have the sit bones elevated. You can also use a bolster or even a couple of bolsters here. And we'll come onto our seat. And we'll come into Baddha Konasana or butterfly pose. Bringing the soles of the feet together, the knees out wide. Feel free to support your knees with your blocks, especially if you have cranky hip flexors or you're like me and your knees are really far from the mat. Soles of the feet together, equally press the right foot into the left foot and the left foot into the right foot. It doesn't matter how close your heels are to your body. The closer they are, the more you'll get into the hip flexors. The further they are, the more you'll open the back side of the body. So think about what might benefit you, your body, most today. I always like to remind you that when we're doing seated forward folds, it's really important to stay anchored and grounded through the sit bones. So keep your sit bones connected to whatever is underneath you. Sit nice and tall, big full inhale, fill all four corners of your torso. As you exhale, lead with your heart, hinge at the hips and forward fold. Stop at your first point of resistance. Let that be your edge for now. And it's okay if the spine is rounding. In our yin practice, the spine often rounds in our forward folds. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't make it wrong, it doesn't make it bad, it just means that you're stretching your back. And sometimes we need that. Nice full inhale, nice full exhale. And our affirmation for our butterfly pose is secure in myself, I accept what is. Secure in myself, I accept what is. You're welcome to place blocks or your bolster underneath your forehead. You can also use your bolster as a cushion to kind of hug and fold forward. Anything that you need to support yourself in this shape, feel free to add. Breathing into the low back, the space in between the shoulder blades, the outer hips, the inner thighs. You might take a moment here to check in with yourself. Ask yourself if you need to remove or add any props. Ask yourself if you can sink into the shape a bit more and find more depth. Or perhaps you're great right where you are and you celebrate that you have found a spot where you feel good in this shape tonight in your practice.
take 5 more rounds of breathing here. Inhale, plant your hands, slowly press yourself up until your spine is nice and long. Take a moment here to check in and observe. And then as you're ready, lean back, bring your hands underneath your knees and bring your knees toward one another. You can lean back and take a little windshield wiper here if you'd like, dropping both knees to one side and then the other. Be mindful of how your hip flexors feel as you do that. And then as you're ready, we'll take our next shape. We'll stay basically where we are, except we're going to extend our legs out wide. Legs out wide, they don't have to be as wide as they can go, whatever feels good for you tonight. Feet are someplace in between relaxed and active. Again, rooted through the sit bones, reaching through the spine, big expansive inhale. And as you exhale, slowly start to walk your hands forward, hinging forward. This is a great place to use your blocks to rest your hands or your forearms or even your forehead on. Remembering to stop at your first point of resistance, take an opportunity to breathe, to notice what you notice. And our affirmation here is, I am worth loving. I am worth loving. You might choose to repeat that to yourself with each inhale. You might choose to omit, or perhaps every time your mind wanders or your thoughts drift, you come back to your affirmation, I am worth loving. Halfway through, check in with yourself. Stay right where you are or adjust as you see fit. We'll take 5 more rounds of breath here. As you're ready, on your inhale, use your hands to support yourself and slowly start to press yourself up, letting your spine grow long, ears over shoulders, shoulders back over the hips. Hands underneath the knees, very slowly start to bend the legs, pull the knees back together. Keep the soles of the feet planted on the mat. Hands come back behind you. Lift your heart. A little back bend here, nice and gentle. And you can also take this opportunity to windshield wiper the legs as well. Those movements can be as big or as small as you would like. And we'll start to make our way into our next shape. Still not changing a lot. We'll extend our feet straight out ahead of us for caterpillar pose. Again, feet kind of in between restful and engaged. Legs don't have to be straight. In fact, I'm a big fan of placing a small bolster or blanket underneath the knees to keep a micro bend. Root through the hips, reach through the spine, big expansive inhale. As you exhale, hinge forward. Folding as far forward as you can, and then let your spine round. Let the back of your neck be nice and long. The tops of the shoulders are easeful. Find your breathing here. Add some props underneath the forehead, or you can even make a shelf using your bolster and your blocks here to rest on. Helps if you have a larger bolster. Think about leading with the heart. So we're trying to reach our heart forward while still being mindful and honoring our edge here. And for this shape, our affirmation is, my potential is endless. My potential is endless. Halfway through. rounds of breathing here. 3 more rounds. Inhale, lengthen the spine, stack the shoulders over the hips, ears over the shoulders. Take a moment to pause, to observe. And as you're ready, hands come back behind you. Tent up onto the fingertips. Bend your legs, plant the soles of your feet. Once again, soften your belly forward, lift your heart. And of course, if you'd like, take a little windshield wiper here. And as you're ready, move your props out of your way. Have them handy just in case though. And we will go ahead and lower all the way down onto our back. Back of the head rests down on the mat. Legs are bent, soles of the feet are planted. Cross your right leg over your left leg and we'll cactus the arms. On an inhale, lift your hips just enough that you can lower your left hip to the right edge of your mat. And allow both of your knees to float in the opposite direction toward the left edge of your mat. Releasing the right shoulder down. And perhaps you uncross your legs, or maybe you add props underneath or in between the knees. And you can take your gaze over to the right as well so that you have a full spinal twist. For an affirmation here, think about an affirmation that you like to use consistently, or perhaps something that you feel is relevant to your practice, this moment, your day. Feel free to add your own affirmation here. Affirmation, one of my regulars, my go-tos is, I am not alone. I am not alone. Next inhale, gently engage your stomach. Begin to float your knees back to center. Lift and lower your hips back to center, very gently releasing your hips down to the mat. Uncross your legs. This time the left leg crosses over the right leg. On your inhale, lift your hips. Exhale, right hip to the left edge of the mat. Both knees float into the opposite direction. Left shoulder melts down, opening the heart space. Nice full inhales, nice full exhales. Perhaps the gaze travels to the left. You can stick with the same affirmation that you used on the opposite side. Can go with my suggestion, I am not alone. Or you can try the affirmation, I am grateful for all that I have. Gently engage your stomach. Float your knees back to center. Lift and lower your hips back to center. Uncross your legs. Take a moment to observe. Let your arms rest at your side. Legs stay bent. And then as you're ready, on your next inhale, hug your knees in towards your chest. Hands can come to the knees or the shins. You can take a clasp of opposite fingers, wrists, elbows, forearms, whatever's available to you. You can stay loose or curl yourself into a tight ball. You can find stillness or a gentle rock right to left. Take one more full round of breath, finding stillness at center. And on your next inhale, hug everything into your core. Take a big full breath into the center of your belly, the center of your being. And as you exhale, release. Let everything float down to the mat. You're welcome to add props underneath the legs or the back. You're welcome to have your blanket or put on your socks. I recommend finding your final shape, your Shavasana shape, as quickly as you can. That way you have more time to rest. Your body has more time to integrate all of the hard work and benefits of your practice. And if it feels right and safe for you, gently close your eyes. And let the space behind your eyes fall heavy. Smooth the muscles of your forehead. Take a full inhale. And an open mouth exhale. Leaving that space in between your teeth, and let your tongue fall away from the roof of your mouth. Find ease in the chest and the shoulders. Take one last opportunity to scan your body. Notice any last whispers of tension. Anything else you're still holding on to or carrying. And on your next exhale, let it float away. Shavasana. Come back to breathing. Invite gentle movement into your toes and your fingers. You can take an inhale and a nice full stretch, or an exhale and curl yourself into a tiny ball. You Eventually making your way onto your side, whatever side feels most natural to you, whatever side you organically fall to. And take a few rounds of breathing here. As you're ready, you're welcome to stay where you are to close your practice, or you can press yourself up to a comfortable seat. I invite you to circle sweep your arms up over your head. Bring your palms to meet, leaving a space in between your palms. Exhale your hands to heart center. Press your thumb knuckles into your heart space. I'm going to close my eyes. If it feels right and safe for you, you can close your eyes as well. Take a moment to infuse the space in between your hands with gratitude to yourself for making it to your practice, as well as to your practice. Gratitude for everything that you were able to accomplish tonight. Gratitude for celebrating right where you are. You're welcome to infuse the space in between your hands with anything else that you would like to call into your life or share with the world. And as you're here, take one last opportunity to check in with yourself. Check in with those that you care for and those that care for you. If you'd like, take a bow to your practice as I bow to each of you. I'm always so humbled and so grateful that you choose to spend your time, your energy, and your practice with me. Namaste. Thank you so much.